Welcome back to part 2 of the Speedo and Electrics. When I left you last time, I mentioned a bit had broken off in here and disappeared, so the numbers looked a bit peculiar. So I have trimmed a piece of shimming material, better known as a Coke can, and then painted it with some etch primer which will stick to it, and obviously looking at it you know it's there because you're staring straight at it. However, I think once it's on the bike, at a quick glance no one's going to spot it, and it's certainly less obtrusive than leaving it as it was. So now we've got to get the trim back on, which is what we're going to do now. So I'll just zoom you out a little bit to give myself a bit more room and bring you down a little bit, because I'll be doing it in front of the Speedo. Let's try that, shall we? So we had our white trim piece, which is meant to stick on there but doesn't seem to want to at the minute. And then we had our glass. In fact, I shall clean the glass and the trim piece whilst it's off. So back in a second. So that went like that went like that, and that's going to go on like that. So that goes in there, we might as well stick that in there as well. So there's a double rubber seal, and that goes back in like so. Then we have to apply a little bit of pressure and knock that over. Now then, again, this is where it becomes slightly more difficult because it's hard to get this round without bending it badly. So with a little bit of pressure still on there, we'll work our way round very gently. Just taking it a very small amount as we go. Some bits are easier than others. Anyway, get the idea. I'll bring you back when it's finished. Right, there you go. I hope you can see that. It's not as neat as rolling it round, but it's pretty tidy. It'll do. And then that's our Speedo done. As I say, it's not perfect, but the face is now secure. The numbers are in their correct slots. The missing part has been changed. I'm quite happy with that. Sat in the middle of the tank, and it saved me about 70-80 quid. So well worth the effort. So checking out the headlight situation, we have power up to the dip switch, and regardless of what position you put it in, regardless of what position you put it in, there's no power back out through the dip switch. So a new switch is needed. Our indicator switch push button still works, but there is no power to anything because the relays for the indicators appear to have been completely removed. And then our horn switch has nothing on it at all. And our horn wires, I'm assuming these are horn wires. Yes, that must be right. Purple and green, I think, are the front indicators. I think. Yeah, I'll check that. Either way, somebody's obviously cut this off, just taped it up. So we need a new push button switch, which is on the way, a new high-low switch, and then we're going to have to completely fabricate our flasher circuit from scratch, which I think I mentioned before. Now, whether I'll do that now or not, I don't know, because the lights are the most pressing issue. So I'll have to see if I can get one of these switches. If I can't, and it's possible I can't because it's an old bike, I'll just go for the Lucas style chrome horn and dip switch combined. It just clamps to the bars, because that'll be that's the easiest way out. I'll just leave the push button switch on there for the indicators. But we shall see what we can find. I'm going to have to look online. The wiring in the headlamp doesn't follow the wiring diagram at the minute, but I think that's because of this. Somebody just cobbled up a supply, ignition fed supply to the headlight. Right, onward and upward. In addition to our brake parts, in my box of bits from Hog Parts, a bag of sweets. Hooray! Thank you very much, Hog Parts, much appreciated. So if you hear any strange slurping noises going on in the background, it isn't the rain pissing down this time, it's me guzzling these. Anyway, so what else have we got? For the electrics, we have got a Drag Specialities switch for the horn, so I can get that functioning again. We have a brake light switch, which we know is faulty on ours. And then from the internet, we have a Taiwanese high-low switch to replace the one we know is not passing current. And then finally off the internet, on the handlebars on mine, these are all soldered up, which I initially thought might be original, but then of course when I checked the brake light switch, there are connectors on the brake light switch. Looking in the parts manual, there should be 1/8 of an inch spade with female connectors on the wiring, and I couldn't find them anywhere. But then I was told that radio connectors, which are, I've forgotten how many millimetres they are now. Anyway, they're very small. But fortunately for me, try not to get my hand in the way, they do actually fit over the terminals. Not brilliantly, but I think if I open that up slightly, they'll get all the way in, which is a method I will be happier with than soldering directly to the switch. Yeah, you just need a little bit of opening up, I think. I'll try and open one up and have a look. Yep, there we go. Just a very, very minor tweak and they'll slide fully home. So I will connect handlebar switches using these rather than soldering them, which has got to be a better way, especially if I ever need to replace them again. The horn switch I want to replace, that one, is held in by a crosshead screw there holding a plate which keeps the two switches together. I'm assuming the indicator one's working, the spring's working. I can't check it yet because there's no power to any of these. And then, as I said, the wires, white, blue, yellow, going upwards, are soldered on, so I'm going to have to use a soldering iron to melt those and try and get them free. How successful that will be, I don't know. I shall bring you back because this might take some time to warm up. Right, the first one's off. I don't know if you can see that. I've had to put the cardboard behind. Oh, it was off. It's reconnected itself. There you go. I've had to put the cardboard behind so you can see what's going on. It's too much in the background otherwise. This is tough solder. This little gas soldering iron is pretty powerful, despite only being small. Right, I obviously made a mistake bringing you back at exactly this time because it doesn't want to undo, oh does it? No, I'll bring you back in a second. Let's try this one. There we go. Oh, little tinker. There we go. So for some reason this one doesn't want to go, and I think the terminal's bent over. I think there we go, that's what it was. The terminal, as you can see, has been bent over when they soldered it. Right, that's off. I'll now undo that. Right, let's get this screw undone. It's not that tight. Thank goodness. Doesn't seem to want to come undone particularly. Try applying a bit of pressure to it. There we are. So our little plate comes out, releasing our switch. Ha ha. Theoretically releasing our switch. Right. So it appears the little black knob has to come off. Right, bear with me again, I'll go and find a small screwdriver. And once again the curse of filming strikes because that button just popped off and is in better condition than the other one. Right. So I say I'll have to trace those later. I'm assuming, I'll look at the wiring diagram, I'm assuming that is our horn wiring. I'm just going to give this a wash, clean, degrease, and then I'll probably give it a quick splash of black aerosol just to smarten it up. Right, I don't have the right tool to crimp them as I mentioned before, I think. So because of that I've soldered them and then crimped them with the pliers. They're good and tight, they're not going to go anywhere. So that's ready for the switch. The housing's being painted at the minute. I've yet to find out about this, but by the time I come back with the housing I will know where that goes and we shall find out where it's going to fit. Right, so there we are. We have our new high-low switch all soldered in and new pins. The new horn switch is in. I've had to extend the wires. I know they're both black, I couldn't find any orange, but you can still see the orange tracer there, so if there's ever a problem I can identify. And it's not polarity conscious once it's all wired in anyway, so I'm not really bothered. The new switch, the pins are not great, they wobble about, which is fairly rubbish. And our little clamp, which we undid to get these out, the thread's not brilliant, so I've got some Loctite in there at the minute, so I'll wait for that to go off before I fit the push buttons on the front, which click into place. I'm sure it'll be okay, but if not I'm going to have to try and tap it for a bigger screw, but it should be okay, they're not under any real pressure at all. So that handlebar end is done. So we need to turn our attention to the other side and sort out the brake light switch. I just moved that out of your vision there slightly. So we shall have a look at that, which is in the master cylinder. So I shall go and dig that out of the box, and we shall put the new switch in that. Right, back on the bench. If you remember, the brake light switch screwed in there. And here's the new one, which we saw earlier, which is of course threaded. Our little terminals are a bit bent, but luckily they're not made of the strongest metal, so we can bend them back out. Now then, I'm going to have to get in your way here, I'm afraid, because I don't see any other way. In fact, let me turn this out this way, see if that's any better. I don't know if you still see that. And it just screws into place. I think that's it. Right, so this can go back on the bars. Right, the handlebar switch is back together again now. I've just plugged in the new brake light switch wire with the wires to the new brake light switch. That's all good. I had to touch in a few bits of the paint from handling, which is still wet, which is probably why it looks a bit glistening. But it's all back together, so things are heading in the right direction. I have just discovered that the soldered on switch on another handlebar is in fact broken, so I'm going to have to order another one of them before I can complete the left hand bars. But you've seen pretty much how they go together, so that's okay. So let me just move you down and round. In fact, I'll have to turn you off and rearrange you. Hold on 1 second. Right, test lights connected to the battery. I don't know if you see that. Is that working over there? No, let me just zoom you out a little bit. You can see what's going on. Test light check. So down here we have our red wire, which is our brake light. So if we turn on the ignition, let me turn it that way around, hold it together so you can see it. Operate our front brake. Hey, we have a functioning brake light. So one small step in the right direction. Right, while we're waiting for our newly discovered broken push button switch, in lieu of the headlight switch, I'm just using jumper wires between the white feed and the blue and yellow in turn, just to make sure that the wiring is okay down to the headlamp mounting area. We know the headlamp's been messed with, but I need to know that this wiring's in usable and correct condition, and it is. So if that powered up, for instance, I'm getting a feed at the yellow end. When I power up the blue one, by doing that, I've tested at that end, I'm getting power. So now I need to work out how these feed the appropriate bulbs in the headlamp. So it's have a look at the wiring diagram time. And by the way, the blue wire goes straight into the junction box, which is mounted on the forks. And I'm not sure how it's wired internally. I can't work out how it's meant to go together. So I think, in all likelihood, I will take it out of the junction box and wire everything directly myself. Because at least then I'll know where things are going and why it's going, rather than guessing. So that's the next step.